ask people if they had questions. So I have nothing, zero prepared to even be able to explain how many thousands of years of culinary school both Ruth and Hinda have under their belts.
Well, that's
Hardly.
that's more than I
Hardly.
know. So there you
No,
go.
that just came out of the top of my head. But I know they are both fabulous cooks and bakers. And I see Lenny's here for a little bit of hint for how to do some of his things. So I'm going to just let Ruth and Hinda take us on a nice tour of Charoset around the world. I'm very plain: apples, Passover wine, nuts, cinnamon. So it'll be nice to learn some new things. So passing it over to you, ladies. Thank you.
I'm going to recommend everyone mute, and then we'll take questions at the very, very end. Just think it'll run smoother. If you have to jump in and ask a question, go ahead. But we're going to try to keep the questions till the end so we can get done in an hour. So good evening.
Good evening. I'm Hinda.
I'm Ruthie. You know that now.
And you might notice that I'm wearing an apron that says Fear of Philo. This was a cooking presentation that Ruthie and I had done for Sisterhood. I'm embarrassed to say almost 30 years ago. And I still have this apron. We thought it would just be fun. Ruth was very creative, and she would use this puff paint, and she would make these creative aprons for us to wear.
And I'm wearing an apron that my father sewed, and he's been gone 20 years, so we know it's much older than that. And while we both cherish old school things and traditions, our worlds of eating have become far more international, and we're always experimenting with new recipes to add to our Seder. And most of you are familiar with the traditional Ashkenazi Charoset, which is made with chopped apples and walnuts, honey or sugar, cinnamon, and sweet kosher wine. And today we're going to take a look at some other regions and offer you some other options for Charoset in our talk about Charoset, mortar, and more.
At the end, we'll offer all the recipes through the Bethel weekly emails, or you're welcome to contact us and we can share them with you. A couple of things. First of all, neither of us are experts in either religion, geography, or history. So when you open up questions at the end, we prefer to keep it to the cooking. We'll probably be able to answer most of those. Secondly, we took all of these recipes and halved them because we didn't think we needed 7 cups of something for a demonstration. And lastly, you should feel that these recipes are pretty flexible. A lot of them have dates and nuts and raisins. You can substitute different kinds of spices. You can use apricots, and you can feel like you can experiment. And I'm pretty sure that any of those will be successful.
Okay, so let's get started. In the words of Mrs. Maisel, tits up. Okay, Charoset tells the tale of the Jewish diaspora. Wherever Jews landed, they made traditional Seder dishes with whatever food was local. The recipes changed, but the tradition of representing the brick and the mortar of the Israelite enslavement in Egypt did not. So the first one we're going to take a look at is my family's secondary favorite, other than the traditional, and it's a Moroccan Charoset. Moroccan Jews are the descendants of an ancient Jewish community. Jews in Morocco date way back before the diaspora and the Spanish Inquisition. Just before the founding of Israel in 1948, there were about 250 to 350 Jews in Morocco. And then it was then the largest Jewish community in the Muslim world. Fewer than 2,500 Jews remain today. So this recipe gets its consistency from walnuts, dates, and cloves. So we're going to start out with 1 orange, and you're going to use the entire orange, including the rind. So make sure you wash it, because you don't know where that orange has been. We're going to put everything in a food processor. We're going to add in dates, which you don't need to chop. We use, obviously, seedless dates, readily available this year from Ocean State Job Lot. They are marked kosher. They're not kosher for Passover, but they are kosher. We're going to add some sugar and cinnamon. We don't have the wine for this one. We're gonna add some walnuts, very finely chopped. And we're gonna add, as is usual, a little bit of wine. Let me grab the wine from over here. A little bit of sweet wine, 2 tablespoons. Okay. And then we're sorry for the grinding noise, but you know, this is real cooking. And it makes kind of a pasty mixture. We keep it kind of coarse. And then we're going to throw it into a pan to cook. How long does that one cook?
This one cooks 10 minutes. So while that is cooking, we're going to go on to the next one.
You know, I apologize. I missed the very beginning. Are the recipes going to be made available?
Yes, they are. The recipes will be available from the Bethel email, and or if you'd like to contact us directly, we can send them out.
Perfect.
Okay.
Just like the brownie.
Okay. So the next one is from the Piedmont region of Italy. The main Jewish settlement in Piedmont began in the 15th century and consisted of Jews who escaped persecution in eastern France. These Jews escaped a few decades after the Spanish persecutions, when in 1942, the Catholic King and Queen of Spain, Ferdinand and Isabella, forced all Jews to convert, flee, or die on the stake. Many Jewish families were forced to leave their homes in 1941 and 1943 and lived in the country or in the mountains until the liberation of the north of Italy in late April 1945. They were concealed by Italian families or by groups of partisans who took the life-threatening risk of hiding Jews, as in many other countries. Despite this, all the Piedmontese Jewish communities lost a very high number of members in the Nazi fascist persecutions and deportations. Some of the smaller communities never recovered and closed their synagogues after the war. The northern region of Italy, the Piedmont, is surrounded by 3 sides by the Alps. This region is dotted with nut trees, especially chestnuts. We found this recipe, when we were looking for recipes, we found this one particularly interesting. It was a bit different because they used chestnuts, almonds, and a hard-boiled egg yolk. So we thought that it might be a fun one to do. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grind the almonds. Now, you could use blanched almonds. We are just using sliced almonds. To be honest, we used what we had around. I think you could use whole almonds. If you use them whole and not blanched, they're going to be the mixture will be slightly brown. But by the time you put some of the other things in, it doesn't really matter. So again, these recipes are incredibly forgiving. Now I'm going to put in the chestnuts. These were just chestnuts. I'm going to show you the package that we have here. These were just roasted chestnuts. We bought them in a package. We actually boiled them a bit in water because we wanted to soften them. I'm going to put them in the Cuisinart. I'm putting in the egg yolk, the zest and juice of 1 orange, and then sugar. Again, when you get these recipes, we are doing them halved. If you need more than what this is going to make, you can double the recipe. Depends how many people you're going to have at your Seder. This one is simple. You just grind it, paste. Again, I think you can do it at the consistency that you like. Some people like it chunkier, some people like it smoother. Just gonna let it go for another minute. I have to say, this one with the egg yolk threw me. I wasn't quite sure what it was gonna be like. This one is a little looser. I think if you were to make it and you wanted to try, you could probably put a little bit less wine. When we have it, we weren't particularly exacting about it. But basically, as long as they all have that look of the mortar, that's really what you're going for.
Are you going to taste it and tell us how it tastes?
Ready?
Sure.
Well, that's interesting. The chestnuts have a very nice flavor. I think I probably would use a few more chestnuts to make it a little thicker. I mean, you can buy fresh chestnuts, roast them and peel them. Frankly, they come in a bag and it's just much easier.
Yeah, I don't even know how easy it would be to get fresh chestnuts, and it's not worth the trouble. These bags are perfectly fine. We boiled them to soften them in water. I think you can boil them and soften them in any liquid you'd like, including a little extra wine. But I do think a little thin, you could either add a little more, as Ruthie said, chestnuts, or you could put a few more nuts in there.
Do you
And
think
where
the
would you
egg?
purchase those?
Pardon me?
Where would you purchase the bag of chestnuts?
Oh, these chestnuts we got at ShopRite.
And those are kosher for Passover.
Yeah, these are kosher for Passover. You know, when it came to all of these ingredients, we didn't really feel the need to have everything kosher for Passover, since we were doing it in the, you know, before Passover. My house isn't tasted it yet anyway, so it didn't really matter. But if you're gonna do it strictly kosher for Passover, all these things are available.
Do you think the egg added anything to the taste, or do you think you could leave the egg out?
I think the egg might have been, it might have made it a tad thicker, but I think you can leave it out.
Mhm.
I don't think it would make any difference, because it was just, I wasn't even sure why it was in there, to tell you the truth. But it said an egg yolk, so we said, okay, we'll go with it.
Okay, so our first one has come out. And since it cooked, the oranges got a little softer. And I have used this one as a leftover by putting some farfalle into it and using it as a stuffing for chicken, because it's really a nice standalone recipe that is there. All right.
Okay, and that one is the one we just did from Piedmont with the chestnuts. And now we're moving on to, this is also an Italian one. Different section of Italy.
All right. So the history of the Jews in Italy spans more than 2,000 years. The Jewish presence in Italy dates to the pre-Christian Roman period. Despite periods of extreme persecution and expulsions from parts, from time to time, the Italian Jewish community has always been resilient and plays an important role in Italian culture. As of 2007, the estimated Jewish population in Italy was around 45,000. The first documented Jews in Italy were ambassadors sent to Rome by Judah Maccabee in 161 BCE. When the Jews were expelled from Spain in 1492, many of them found refuge in Italy, where they were given protection by King Ferdinand I of Naples. The Venetian ghetto, which is a very popular tourist spot, was the area of Venice in which Jews were compelled to live under the Venetian Republic. It is the name for, in Italian, ghetto, that the word ghetto is derived. So this one uses the things that came from Italy. So we have 1 to 2 apples that we chopped.
Goes all in a saucepan.
What's that?
This one all goes into the saucepan.
Okay, you can go directly in. So this is another cooked one. So this one has chopped apples. And you can chop them in the Cuisinart. I chopped them by hand. This one has a pear chopped, which is kind of different. It's got golden raisins. And in keeping in tradition for Passover, it's got prunes. And again, dates. It's got pine nuts, which is classic for Italy. Again, almonds. It's got some sugar or honey, cinnamon, and ginger. And the final ingredient, of course, is some sweet wine. And this one also gets cooked on the stove. And you can see it's a pretty hearty recipe. It's got a lot of things in it. So while this one is cooking, we're going to go on to the next one, and then we'll come back and show you the final product.
That one cooks for about 20 to 30 minutes, so it'll probably be the last thing that we see. The other, if you're looking for where to find some things, I found last year there was a website called Oh Nuts. And if you're interested in getting nuts that are kosher for Passover, they had pine nuts, they had cashews, they had a whole variety of nuts that were available. It was a very interesting website. So the next one is Algerian. This one, the Jews date back to the 1st century in Algeria. In the 15th century, many Spanish Jews fled to the Maghreb, including today's Algeria. Algeria won its independence in 1962, and by the National Code of 1963, denied citizenship to all non-Muslims. Algerian Jews, most of whom had been entitled to French citizenship since 1870, left. In 1955, there were 140,000 Jews in Algeria. After being granted independence in 1962, the Algerian government harassed the Jewish community and deprived the Jews of their economic rights. As a result, almost 130,000 Algerian Jews immigrated to France. Since 1948, 25,681 Algerian Jews have immigrated to Israel. It's interesting because the Jews well, we say that Moroccan or Sephardic, the Sephardic Jews actually, I believe, although we said we were not going to be specific about geography and history, are Jews that came from the Iberian Peninsula. The Jews that came from Arab countries are technically called Mizrahi Jews, and I believe in Israel they're actually referred to as Mizrahi Jews as well. So this one is, the thing that's interesting about this one is we're going to put it all in the Cuisinart. It's going to get pulsed to a paste, and then we're going to make little balls out of it. This is, it's a nice way to serve it. You can put it in those little paper cups. You can serve it as an appetizer even, or you can obviously use it as a typical charoset would be used. But once it's made, it's easier to serve. If you're having a large crowd, you're not passing it all around. It's all
Ideal for the COVID world.
yes, that's true. So I just put in some dates, some figs. I believe this is the only one that actually used figs. Again, we're putting in some sweet wine. We're putting in some cinnamon, nutmeg, and confectioner's sugar. We're using regular confectioner's sugar, but confectioner's sugar is definitely available for Passover. We're gonna paste it all, we're gonna pulse it, make a paste. And I would suggest if you're using a Cuisinart like this, that you stop every once in a while and check it, because you don't want it, you want it to be the consistency that you want it. In other words, if you want it all very, very fine, you can keep it going. And if you want it to be thicker and chunkier, then you want to obviously stop. Yep. So I'm going to show you this. You can see that that's a pretty good consistency. The nuts are, things are, there are no nuts in this one. The figs and the dates are pulsed, and they'll be able to be worked into balls, which is what I'm actually going to do right now. So I'm going to put this on a plate.
Okay, I can't resist this. Is it at all similar to sweaty balls?
I'm sorry?
Someone just making it.
I said, I hate to do this, but is it at all similar to Saturday Night Live sweaty balls?
Oh.
If you don't know it, just pass over it.
I
Pass over.
also find that if you wet your hands, it works a little better.
The other thing we're going to do is we're going to roll them in sugar and cinnamon. You can do just cinnamon. You can roll them in chopped walnuts if you want,
Coconut.
but we thought the cinnamon and sugar would like add some extra sweetness.
So which of these recipes have you tried out on your families? And are there a couple of favorites or?
I have made the first one for probably 5 years. It came from a website that used to be called The Shiksa in the Kitchen. And it was like an immediate success. Everybody really loved it right away. And so we make the Ashkenazi and we make the Moroccan, and I might try some of these and they could be popular. I'm sure this is very delicious.
I've made something similar to this one, only it used apricots. I've made another Sephardic one that was similar to this, used a little more dates, a little less figs, and was rolled. The rolled was very popular, actually. And it's easy to eat.
What do you mean by a roll? You rolled it and then cut it like cookies?
No,
or-
I mean, we're making little balls.
Rolled balls.
Oh, you meant rolled ball. Okay, got it.
However, I have made something else. It's more like a dessert. It's also made with dates, and it's rolled up in a log. It's not really Charoset, but they all sort of taste the same after a while when you start using all those dates. The other thing that's kind of interesting to use is date syrup. That is available. It's called Ceylon. And the Iraqis use just date syrup and almonds. Since we were limited to time and we couldn't make, how many could we make? We chose 5. But that's another interesting one, I think. You just take some date syrup, which is very, very thick, and add some almonds to it. And if you mix it up, you'll be able to spoon it out. So we're almost finished rolling all these. I think they've all got, so they're kind of like truffles. You can think of them as truffles. They're
Without
not
the chocolate.
without the chocolate. It's true. There we go.
And they are delicious. Mm. Mm,
They really are good.
they are good. Mm. The nutmeg gives them a little bit of a zing. I think you'll like that one. I might add even a little more of the cinnamon and the nutmeg if I were going to do it.
I think the confection of sugar also gives it a different texture than the granulated sugar. It's a little bit sweeter and it's more powdery. Just gotta rinse my hands off here.
And voila, they are a little, kind of reminds me of Indian food. Everything's kind of brown pink, brownish orange.
Well, it is supposed to resemble mortar.
Yep.
Just washing our hands.
Okay. Last one we're going to make.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh,
Oh, Elliot just tested. He's attesting to how good it is.
my daughter-in-law Emily is also here. She's running the camera and the lights, and they're very happy.
So the Jews have lived in India for about 2,500 years. They were the first foreign religious group to enter the country. Of all the diaspora communities, the Jews in India are among the least known, but perhaps among the most interesting. For us personally, my in-laws traveled there frequently, and my father-in-law collected all kinds of Judaic, including Haggadot, from India. There are 3 major historical Jewish communities in India. There's the B'nai Israel. It's a 2,800-year-old community settled mainly in and around Mumbai. There are Cochin Jews, an ancient 2,000-year-old community whose members have mostly emigrated to Israel, and Baghdadi Jews, a 300-year-old community based in Calcutta that originated from Jewish business people who came from Baghdad beginning of the 17th century. It's not surprising that the combination of Indian flavors and Jewish tradition creates such a delicious and unique Charoset recipe. I have to admit, we have not ever seen anything quite like this. In India, they use a lot of mango, they use papaya, they use lots of cashews and nuts. And this recipe actually incorporates all of that, including cardamom, cloves, fresh ginger. And so this one just goes, it gets mixed together and,
Yep, it's not good.
okay.
Okay, so this one uses papaya, which I think most people are fairly familiar with a papaya. I went to ShopRite. They had one papaya. It was about 3 times this size. And you just cut it in half, you know, scoop out the seeds, peel it, and it's sort of a sweet fruit. It's not something that most people have. So we're going to start with a papaya.
This one, it really doesn't have that color that all the others have, which is kind of refreshing, frankly. It has more of a fresh taste because of the fruit and the papaya and the mangoes.
Yep. And then we're going to use some dried mango. And again, ShopRite has dried mango. It's got a K and a parv. I don't know how, you know, strict you are, but it's a brand new bag. So we figured we were okay.
So the recipe called for dried mango, not fresh mango?
Yes, dried
Okay.
mango.
Correct. And then it calls for cashews, not chopped. The juice of a lemon. Some fresh ginger, which we grated. I think ginger is a great flavor.
Ginger is also good to keep in the freezer. You can take ginger and just cut it in small pieces and put it in the freezer, and you could grate it right out of the freezer. We just used a microplane.
Yep. And I also buy ginger in a jar sometimes, or a tube.
I don't know if people are familiar with this, but it's fairly easy to use, easy to get, and the ginger was easy to grate. However, if you didn't have the fresh ginger, I'm sure ground ginger would be a good substitute.
Sure. So the 3 spices we're going to add are cinnamon, cloves, and cardamom. Cardamom is kind of an unusual spice. It's not one that you typically see used in a lot of recipes, but it has quite a pungent flavor. So this one has a bright color. It's got a nice smell to it. I can smell the ginger in it. I can smell the spices in it. And the best part is once you finish the chopping, it is super easy. You just mix it up and that's it. And it's a little different. So going back, we have our one that cooked here. I'm gonna bring it over and show you. This one that cooked, just like anything else that cooks, apples, you know, they get that beautiful glossy color to them. Apples when they cook.
Almost caramelized.
And it would make a great filling for pie or whatever you wanted. And obviously you let it cool. And it's just a little different ingredients than we're all used to, and delicious. So that's our 5th one.
So would
And
you taste the 5th one and tell us what you think?
It's really hot. Let's take some.
No,
questions
I'm
first.
sorry, the one that's that you didn't
Oh,
cook.
sure.
The one with the papaya in it.
Oh, sure.
Those of you who know Hinda she doesn't taste that many things, so.
Kathleen is laughing. I can hear her.
It has a very nice contrast between the ripe papaya and the cashews and the dried mangoes. Could be my dinner. Yeah, no, that's a really yummy flavor, and it certainly is not traditional.
That's actually one that I think I might try because I think it's fresh and it's bright.
Still good a week later.
And I think
I don't know what happened. I can't hear you. Ruth?
oh,
I know,
sorry.
I just had a muting. You good?
Can you hear me now? Yes?
You
Can
should,
you
you
can
should
you
be
hear
able-
me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, good. What I said was, I don't know if you heard me, is that at our seders, I always like to try to do some tradition or some food from another country as opposed to being Ashkenazi. And I think the Charoset is an easy one to bring in without too much preparation and too much fuss, and brings an extra sense of the world, the Jewish world, to the
Right.
Seder table.
And leftovers, I have to tell you, any of these are delicious with matzah and cheese. If you have leftovers as a little snack, you just smear it on a little matzah with a piece of cheese. They all are terrific for stuffing if you want to add matzah meal or farfel to thicken it up. Or you can just eat it out of the pot. So we'll take any questions. Right now, we can't see you, so you'll just have to tell us who you are, and we're happy to try and answer for you.
Not one person? No questions?
It's Nadine. Can you put all 5 of them visible at the same time?
Sure.
Well, this isn't a question, but I would like to say that this has been fantastic. And you have no idea how much I want to put my finger in each one of those bowls. Yeah, that papaya one is really intriguing.
Yeah, I think that's one I'm going to try myself this year.
The color is beautiful on that one. This is not that appealing, I must say, but it tastes good. I mean, it has a nice flavor.
I think there'll be a run on papayas because I'm going to try it too.
I think also that in terms of preparation, so we spent maybe an hour yesterday prepping all of these. You know, once you start chopping, you chop, and some of them, even though we put them in the Cuisinart, we chopped, you don't really have to. We just thought it might be faster. So it could be very, very easy and quick to make these at home.
And honestly, they're better made a day or two before, because then the flavors really combine and soak in together.
On that second one, it seemed to me like it didn't need to be cooked. I can't remember what was in it. The one that you cooked on top of
The first one was cooked, because it had the orange with the peel. So this one, you want to kind of break down that orange. And I think it's better when you cook it. The 2 that were cooked was this one and the one with the apples and the pears. And that one you definitely needed to cook.
Why is that? Why is that, Ruth?
Because it was raw apple and raw, I mean, I suppose you couldn't, but look how nice I'll let you know how it tastes. I'm looking at my spoon.
Okay.
The thing about the one with the orange being cooked, if you really wanted to do it and not cook it, you could peel the orange, not use the skin, and then just use the flesh of the orange.
I was thinking specifically of the second one because it reminded me a little bit of what we traditionally make, which we don't cook up, you know, the one with the apples.
Right.
Right.
But it looked beautiful when you took it off, but I was just wondering if an alternative would be not to cook that one.
Well, I don't think there's anything, I mean, you're not going to get sick if you don't cook it. It just will have a different texture. You know, it'll be more like the one we normally use, the Ashkenazi one, with a few more flavors.
On this one, the prunes did cook down, and the prune flavor kind of permeates it and adds a little extra sweetness. The raisins get soft. I think you're better to cook it, and it will stay fresher longer if it's cooked, because we all know how apples kind of get brown looking.
Anyone else have a question or comment?
So this is really exciting. And Ruth, I want to thank you for humoring me and tasting as you go, because it's helping me decide which one I want to make. So.
I think that I've always loved this first one, which was always our favorite. Hang on, I have to pass one to the camera girl. Camera woman, sorry. This one has been our favorite for a long time and always is a hit. This is new to us, the chestnuts. I can't say it's very palatable as far as looks. The balls are great, and like Hinda said, if you put them in a little tiny cupcake cup, it's nice. It's also much more sanitary. They can be passed around. There's not a lot of sharing. I love the color of this one. I think it's bright. I think the flavor is interesting, and This is just delicious. I would put that on fish. I would put that on chicken, turkey, that miserable soup chicken you're left with, and you want to make chicken salad, you put a couple tablespoons of that into it. It would be delicious.
I think this one is getting short shrift because it looks kind of, it doesn't have any shape. But I think that it could use more chestnuts and it would thicken up and you'd be able to have, more of a thicker consistency. But you have to like chestnuts. It's basically chestnuts.
Mhm. Anybody?
The other thing, one more thing, we really didn't do anything with apricots. And often I have a Turkish recipe where apricots are used also with dates. It adds some sweetness and comes out similar to this one with the oranges, only it doesn't use the orange rind. It just uses the juice. And also it comes thick enough so you can roll into balls. So I think that there are a variety of them that you can serve this way, considering what the consistency is. I mean, even this one with the orange, you could roll that up. Maybe they wouldn't come out, perfectly clear, but you could do it finer and you could roll them up and serve them as little balls. I kind of like that idea. I have done that before and it seems to go over well.
And today I just came across a Jamaican one that has bananas in it.
Which didn't appeal to either one of us.
But bananas are a good paste there to hold them together. All right, if there aren't any other questions, we thank you. This was fun. Every 30 years or so, we like to do a little cooking demo. And let's see,
Thank you.
when
Thank
we're
you.
100, we'll
Oh,
do
God.
our next one.
The recipes.
Well,
It was great.
we thank you because this has been fantastic and you both
That's
have a
nice.
delightful way of presenting, I have to say. But again, I
Thank
want to
you,
just
Nan.
come
I
and
think
taste
probably-
every
Thank
one
you
of
very
them.
much.
I think the easiest way is for us to send the recipes to Judy or to the office, and then we'll distribute them by
That's all.
email.
Okay.
I
Did
think
you have
that's
a
a good
question?
idea. And you might want to attach,
I'm just gonna say thank you.
you might want to put something on when the video is uploaded to YouTube, saying to contact the Congregation Bethel office if you want the recipes.
That's
That's a
great.
very good idea, Nadine. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
okay. Have a good evening.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
Yeah, this
you.
was really fun. Really appreciate you doing
Really.
this.
It was great.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
I think I have to wait till everybody's gone.